It's the Real Estate Podcast, across every state, city and town of Australia.
And welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Podcast, available on iHeartRadio every morning and on Spotify and Apple and wherever you get your podcast from. It's a Thursday. Tell you what, this week is going by pretty fast. It's the 18th day of August for 2022, and coming up this morning, we are looking at a suburb that's become popular just outside of the Melbourne CBD, and we're talking to Mo, who's an interesting character in his own right. He is a selling agent there, so we're going to be talking about the suburb and finding out about Mo's real estate career. If you're celebrating a birthday for today, the 18th, have yourself a fantastic Thursday. You share it on the same day as Cameron White, the Australian cricketer, who was turning 39 today. Robert Redford, he is 85, the actor and also the man who started Sundance all those years ago.
We are just as addicted to property as you are. Every weekday morning from 6:30.
Okay, so here's an interesting one. Just how much work in the way of due diligence do you undertake on neighbours before buying a property? A Finder's First Home Buyers report revealed that 35% of first home buyers are afraid of bad neighbours. So this is a real thing, and let me tell you something that I did some years ago, and the property that I was looking at buying wasn't even on the market. I had gone into streets where I wanted to live, started knocking on doors and asked the question, are you interested in selling your property? And the first question was always, are you a real estate agent? To which I replied, no, I'm a genuine buyer. So I had about 50 no's, and I had one owner who said to me, well, we're actually looking at listing in about 6 months' time, to which I replied, well, I'm buying now. So they said they'd ring me the following day, and so the negotiations started. So what I did was I had my own undercover stakeout with a thermos and muffins. Once the sun set, I stayed in place in my car, staking the street out for about 6 hours. And I can tell you that the street was as quiet as a mouse. Once people had pulled their curtains, that was it. Nothing happened. Absolutely quiet. So the next day, I canvassed the street talking to owners. Was there anything weird going on? You've got to talk to the neighbours, because if you talk to the vendor or the real estate agent, you're not going to get the information you want. So I ended up, long story short, buying this property, and then I ended up buying the rental property, the only rental property in the street, which was right next door to the property that I had bought. So, do your in-depth due diligence so you don't get caught out. And what is 5 or 6 hours anyway of staking out a street, when if you don't do it, you might find multiple problems? And I actually view this just as important as defects on a property. They are both equally as important.
From first home buyers to property investors and everything in between. Every morning on the Real Estate Podcast. It's the main centre forecast with propertybuyer.com.au.
All right, let's check on your weather around Australia. First we go to Sydney, and good morning to you. Partly cloudy conditions, but it should be mainly dry today with 22 degrees. Melbourne, once again, more showers in the forecast and windy conditions with 17 degrees. Brisbane, mainly fine today, 23, and in Perth, cloud cover, but it should be a mainly dry day and 18 degrees.
Grab your coffee and switch on your real estate breakfast every weekday morning from 6:30.
Well, I'm in a pretty interesting position here at the Real Estate Podcast to find out about different suburbs around Australia that are rearing their heads up, popping their heads above the parapet, so to speak, and say, look at me, And in a lot of cases, people have never before, prior to the pandemic, heard of these areas, let alone considered moving there, and in many cases, moving interstate. And here is another suburb that you probably haven't heard of before. It sits about 30 k's southeast of Melbourne CBD. It's called Endeavour Hills. It's a suburb on the rise, and boy, it's only 40 minutes from Melbourne CBD and about 5 k's from the Dandenong Ranges. So let's say good morning to Mo Zeitouneh from Ray White Dandenong, and very good morning to you, Mo. Welcome to the Real Estate Podcast.
Thank you so much. Just wanted to say a massive thank you for this opportunity to be a part of this podcast. It's actually always something I've wanted to do, was, be on a podcast, and I listen to many other agents. I listen to many generic podcasts as well. And I've always thought, oh gosh, I would love the opportunity just to talk and just voice my opinion a little bit. And funny enough, it's actually on my 2022 personal goals is to be on a podcast. And it's funny how things just, intertwine with each other, and it actually happens.
Mo, this is it. It's arrived. It is your moment to shine. Yes. Mate, you're not just on any podcast, you're on the Real Estate Podcast.
Yeah, so perfect.
Tell us a little bit about your journey, because just on Saturday, we stripped it all back talking about somebody that was new to the industry, and that was Ben in Perth. And I think you've been going about 3 years in the real estate industry.
Yes, correct. So I've been born and raised in Endeavour Hills for the last 24 years of my life, and I absolutely love the area. I attended primary school there, secondary school there as well. So I'm a big part of the community there as well. But when I was going into the industry of real estate, people I was talking to, they either said, you can work in a field, an area where you're from, and, know the area quite well and be familiar, with all its characteristics, or, you can bite the bullet and work in another area that you're not very familiar with. And I did want to obviously be situated where, I had a strong connection already with my community and new people in my community. That's why I chose to work somewhere where, I know the area like the back of my hand, and it has been a great benefit for me.
And tell me a little bit about, because you come from the hospitality sector, and I find that quite interesting because you've got to be able to adapt, I guess, with the public in that sort of a sector. It's not an easy sector to work in. And of course, real estate, you have to do that. You have to be talking to people constantly. It's slightly different because it is real estate. How did you find the skill factor from hospitality into real estate?
Well, hospitality was actually my first job, but when I was 14 and 9 months, I worked at a family business called the Dandenong Pavilion. I absolutely loved it. The most probably exciting opportunity I had working within the hospitality sector was the international business side. So I actually lived in China for 3 months while we opened up 3 stores there. And I was only 19 at the time, and I actually had my 20th birthday in a city called Chongqing. It was absolutely crazy. Like, none of my friends or family had ever done this before. And then I was celebrating my 20th birthday with people that didn't even know how to speak English. And it was an amazing experience. Like, imagine being in a country, like, you can't even speak to one another. Like, I had a translating app with me 24/7. I was literally teaching our business to people that didn't know how to speak English, teaching our brand, bringing our brand over to 3 continents in China.
Mo, you were born for real estate, I can tell.
Thank you. I'll take it as a compliment.
Now, just coming back to the whole hospitality, I mean, very transferable in terms of what you learnt in hospitality with the ability to talk to vendors, people that are buying property.
Of course, you're learning so much, personal skills, you're learning customer service skills, how to transact with different people. And that saying, the customer's always right. Also, working as a team, I feel like any sort of hospitality industry, it teaches you a lot to work as a team, as a collective. And even where I'm based now in our office at Ray White, I work in a team structure, and I absolutely love it because, there's no I in team.
Endeavour, we better talk about Endeavour Hills because this has started to go off. PropTrack did a little piece on it last week. So is it of any surprise to you that it caught this bit of a boom in the market?
Not at all. It's just been an amazing experience the last 3 years of my life transacting property in this core suburb, because I've just seen it grow and prosper like at an absolutely enormous level. So when I started selling property here in 2019, the average medium house price in the market was approximately $530,000, and now to date it's risen to $831,000 approximately. That's just crazy. It's absolutely insane in the matter of 3 years' time.
And we hear a lot, of course, people interstate moving. Have there been many of these interstaters moving into Endeavour Hills?
Look, the market's mainly driven by buyers that are either upsizers, downsizers, or even just young families looking to obviously live in a suburb with, huge family dynamics, because it's just got so much to offer. You've got obviously a local shopping centre. Convenience is a really, really big thing as well. So close to obviously main highways, freeways, even as well as Dandenong CBD as well is only 5 kilometres. Now, Dandenong CBD is obviously the second CBD we have here in Melbourne. So it does have a lot to offer you there as too. Even the schools, there are exactly 11 schools in Endeavour Hills as well. 7 are primary schools, 2 are high schools, and 1 is a special school as well. And then obviously you've got an abundance of kindergartens and, preschool opportunities as well. But it's just mainly driven by young families that looking to grow their families as well. And, just live in a nice, familyhood suburb.
And on Saturday, coming back to that interview that I did with Ben there in Perth, we sort of broke down somebody that has been in the industry for just under 2 years. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts about the market. Obviously, it's changing. You've been in the real estate game for about 3 years. No doubt you will know some people also that might be looking at another career in terms of a real estate agent as things start to bite.
Yeah, of course. Look, go back, 6 to 8 months ago, properties were literally selling themselves. We would put a property on the market. Our phones would be buzzing off, we'd be getting 10 to 15 email inquiries per day of, people wanting to come see the home. And that's what COVID did. But now it's getting a little bit more trickier because, obviously buyers that are coming through are less, and the inquiries that we're getting have dropped down dramatically. But if a home is marketed right, you're going to have no issue selling it. But what we're seeing as well, even with my team at my office, is we're having to do a lot more buyer work than we ever had. And that's a result of homes, selling themselves, 8 to 12 months ago.
All right, so we'll leave it there. I've got to ask, you were wanting to do the podcast. How do we go? How do we rate?
Oh, I absolutely loved it, man. As I said, it was always something I'd wanted to do, and, can't thank you enough for the opportunity.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks, Mo. Enjoy your day and get out there and sell some more of those houses.
Done. Sell.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.